There are a number of benefits to being a teen wolf hellhound. Mountain ash is no problem. Hellhounds are literally on fire, and mountain ash is wood. But you could argue, since the hellhound's fire is supernatural, the supernatural blocking wood absolutely would block supernatural fire. As it turns out, it does. You can see as he enters the barrier, it's reacting to the flames around his body. And while the fire is supernatural and blocked, the heat it generates is not. And if you heat the air around the wood enough, it'll literally burst into flames and burn away.
How's he gonna get through the mountain ash?
Trust and believe. If Parrish can burn through iron at 2800 Fahrenheit, he's hot enough to combust wood. Another benefit of being fire-based is that poisons and paralytics like wolfsbane and cannibal venom will not work. This is another case of the offending substance simply burning away in the furnace that is the Hellhound spirit. Speaking of the spirit, a lot of people have asked how Parrish survived Lydia's skull-splitting scream. Unlike Valak, the Parrish Hellhound seemed to absorb some of the energy and the shockwave. Now, I'm not 100% sure how that works, but it's not surprising considering that the spirit had previously protected Parrish or completely healed his body after a big explosion in the war. Hellhounds can also heal from things like bullets as long as there's no silver involved.
See those fragments around it? That's silver. The bullet was coated with it.
The humans they inhabit are still susceptible to all the things. So if heat won't work to fix or remove something, they can die. In the case of silver, the Hellhound healing fire actually made the situation worse by melting the silver and poisoning the body. There are no baby hellhounds in the Teen Wolf universe. This actually came up in conversation because I ran a poll about the Malia Parrish pairing happening in the new Teen Wolf movie, and because I have been talking a lot about supernatural reproduction lately. There are no baby hellhounds in the Teen Wolf universe, and Parrish cannot bite someone and make a new hellhound.
Who am I talking to?
Cerberus. Garner. Black Shuck. I've had many names.
Hellhounds in this universe are immortal spirits who have been around since the very first human died and all the other humans wondered what the hell happened.
Ow. Where do you think you go when you die?
Want to poke him?
Do I?
Along with the Wild Hunt's Ghost Riders and the humans who are banshees, the Hellhounds are a basic part of the cosmic machinery that manages some aspects of the human afterlife. As I've explained before, the Wild Hunt and the Hellhounds are just our perception of these cosmic forces. To other cultures around the world, these same forces do not look like cowboys and growling hunks. Okay, the growling hunk form may be universal. It is Teen Wolf after all. But overall, these types of spirits are shaped by the perceptions of the cultures in which they appear. But no matter what they look like, it's all the same thing with basically the same purpose: to help us understand and deal with death and the supernatural. So, with all that high philosophical bullshit out of the way, hellhounds do not reproduce because they're immortal spirits. If the body they possess dies, they just return to the spirit realm and wait until they need to return to our reality for some reason, either to deal with death or manage some other supernatural thing that gets out of control. So, since the Hellhound is just using Parrish to get around, if Parrish and Malia were to make a baby, that baby would be a were-coyote because she is a... No, I'm not explaining that again. Go and watch the baby werewolf video if you really want to know how that works. Bottom line, Hellhounds can't make new Hellhounds. This painting is something I hear about all the time. Viewers seem equal parts annoyed and disappointed that Parrish didn't look like this when he was fully flamed up and fighting Sebastian. Now, I kind of understood at the time that this is an artist's impression of a hellhound painted by someone who had never seen a hellhound. They were like, it's a big human-shaped dog, and it's angry and on fire. And since they didn't have artificial intelligence back then, they had to punch all that information into a regular meat-based intelligence called a painter, and it then came up with this and scribbled it on the wall. Then someone came along later and plastered and tiled over it, maybe because they'd figured out it wasn't at all what a hellhound looked like, and or they decided they didn't want the creepy mural accent wall after all. I kind of understand why people might expect this to be a literal interpretation of a hellhound, because the guy did capture Sebastian's likeness so well. But then again, lots of people saw Sebastian, and there was tons written about him, so there was a lot more information to go on, probably. But hellhounds look different in every culture. Sometimes they have 3 heads and snake heads. So if the remit is just draw me a hellhound, you could end up with almost anything.
Hey guys, you wanna go scaring? You wanna go scaring? Okay.
Besides, paintings don't always have to reflect real life. I mean, that guy Jesus didn't look anything like any of these paintings because none of these artists ever met him, and the Bible just says something along the lines of he was this average-looking dude. He probably didn't have a flaming hoop around his head either. The Teen Wolf Hellhound is just a human body possessed by an eternal dog-like spirit that is sometimes on fire. It was never going to look like this. Someone brought this up the other day, and my answer at the time was purely statistical. There is no reason that I can think of why a hellhound couldn't choose a dying werewolf to be its host. I mean, Nagitsune spirits can't be both fox and wolf, according to that one scroll in season 3, but the hellhound spirit just grabs the first person it finds that is capable of accomplishing whatever mission it's coming to our reality to carry out. In the case of Parrish, his military experience would be very useful to place the Hellhound in a position with some authority in Beacon Hills. Being a sheriff's deputy allowed it to keep an eye on the newly re-energized Nematon and to act if the need arose to cover up evidence of the supernatural. It's a choice the Hellhound has to make at the moment of its host's death, so there is a limited pool of bodies to choose from. Given that werewolves are relatively rare when compared to the population as a whole, and given that they die at a lower rate when compared to the general population, the odds of a hellhound choosing one as a host are exponentially low. Could a hellhound be evil? This literally came up earlier today, and my initial reaction was no. Hellhounds are neutral. They have a job to do, and they do it to the best of their ability, ignoring everything else, like the feelings of the people around it and even the person it possesses.
He's a body, a means to an end. I am beyond life and death. I am infinite. I have no use for your deputy.
The hellhound spirits are eternal. They've been around since the beginning of death, and like a piece of code in the cosmic algorithm, they just do what they're meant to do.
Do you know who I am?
The Banshee.
What about Jordan Parrish? What happened to Parrish?
Jordan Parrish died. There is no Jordan Parrish.
The spirit doesn't seem to care about concepts of good and evil. It only cares about its mission and what it's designed to do, which in the cases we've seen on Teen Wolf dealt with keeping supernatural stuff secret and helping to manage various aspects of the afterlife.
Okay, then what are you here for? What are you protecting? Or is it something you're hunting?
Something you let out. Where is it? You can't stop it. You can't kill it.
But you did.
I trapped it.
They've been at this a long time, with almost every major culture acknowledging, renaming, and reimagining the same dog-like supernatural beings that deal with the underworld and the dead.
Cerberus. Garner. Black Shuck. I've had many names.
There is only one case we know of for sure where the Hound even seems to acknowledge evil, and that's through its work with the Wild Hunt. The writer's job seems to be to take bad people with them. The Hellhound helps the Hunt keep those souls within that framework, so in that way they are enforcing at least one universal concept of good or evil. But that brings up a deeper philosophical question.
Don't listen to that guy. He's trying to lead you down the path of righteousness. I'm going to lead you down the path that rocks.
Are good and evil truly subjective, or are there fundamentally true, rock-solid definitions for each of those words that we humans have simply and repeatedly mucked up with our petty concepts of sin and the law? That is not a question that is going to be answered by me, and certainly not on YouTube. But the main point here is that hellhounds are the ultimate neutral party. The individual they possess might color their perceptions and actions a bit, but at their core, the hellhound spirit is beyond labels like good and evil and just does its thing. What part of I am infinite do y'all not understand? Forgive me, I woke up in a mood today, but this came up when a viewer pointed out that for a couple of seasons, Parrish was treated as the Hellhound, the only one. He even said that he was known by many names.
Cerberus. Garner. Black Shuck. I've had many names.
But later we learned there isn't just one Hellhound. This, according to my very observant viewer, is an obvious plot hole of terrible proportions. It's almost like we don't live in a world with several thousand years worth of examples of one supernatural force that splits itself into several distinct beings.
How is Parrish dead?
Listen to how the Hellhound describes itself.
I am beyond life and death. I am infinite.
I am infinite. As I had tried to explain, every major culture I could find had death dogs dealing with their underworld. Hell, the Egyptians had a whole kennel of different dogs to deal with different aspects of death. They had one whose only job was guarding the dead guy's stomach in this little jar so as to make for better digestion for the dead guy in the afterlife. So yes, there is an infinite Hellhound force in the Teen Wolf universe. When needs be, that force will take a dying human body and become a separate being. Those separate beings may be aware of each other on some level, but the human personality that's along for the ride doesn't necessarily know what's up, which can lead to conflict. Or maybe Hellhounds just like playing. I mean, they are puppies after all.